Evan adjusted the collar of his waiter uniform for the 10th time. It still felt too tight. He stood inside the grand hall, staring at the glowing decorations, the floating lights, and the soft alien music humming through the air. The royal banquet was the biggest event Earth had ever hosted, and Evan had been hired only because the hotel needed extra staff. He kept telling himself to stay calm, keep his head low, and not cause trouble. His job was simple: carry trays, serve drinks, smile politely. Nothing else. But tonight was anything except normal. The doors at the far end of the hall opened slowly, and a quiet gasp spread across the room. The imperial delegation from the Celestian Empire entered in a line. Their robes shimmered like liquid metal. Their eyes glowed faintly. Their movements were smooth and perfect, like beings carved from light. Everyone in the hall stared. Everyone except Evan, who quickly looked down at his tray. He didn't want to be caught staring. He was just a waiter. After all, the Emperor wasn't here, but the Empress's daughter, the princess, was. Princess Astravalier. She walked in the center of her guards. Her long silver hair floated behind her like a cloud of stars. She looked calm, but her eyes moved as if searching for something that wasn't there. Evan noticed she looked lonely. How could a princess look lonely? He tried to focus on his job. As the delegation settled at their table, Evan stepped forward carefully, offering drinks. His hand shook a little. Astra noticed him. Her gaze paused on him longer than it should have. He froze for a moment, unsure if he should bow or run. But her expression wasn't angry. She looked curious, almost gentle. "Thank you," she said softly as he poured her drink. Her voice was light, musical, unlike anything he had ever heard. Evan nodded quickly and stepped back before he could embarrass himself. The banquet went on, filled with speeches, flashing lights, and dishes that looked alive. Alien ambassadors spoke in long, formal sentences. Human leaders tried to look confident, but Evan could see that Princess Astra wasn't paying attention to any of it. She kept glancing around the hall, fidgeting in her seat as if she wanted to escape. At one moment, her small android assistant malfunctioned, making a sharp, buzzing noise. The guards panicked and reached for their devices. But Astra only frowned and tapped the machine gently. When that didn't work, she sighed quietly. Her boredom was obvious. Evan continued serving, careful to avoid drawing attention. But fate had other plans. While carrying a tray of crystal glasses, he felt someone bump into him from behind. The tray tilted sharply. 3 glasses slid toward the edge. Time slowed. Evan lunged forward, catching all 3 before they shattered on the floor. But in the process, he stumbled right into Princess Astra's table. He froze in horror. Everyone around them went silent. The guards stiffened. Human officials looked terrified. Astra blinked at him, surprised but not angry. "Are you hurt?" she asked. Evan shook his head quickly. No, I'm fine." "I'm so sorry, Princess." But instead of scolding him, she smiled a little. It was a soft smile, the kind that made her look like she wanted to laugh, but wasn't allowed to. "You're very quick," she said. "Most humans would have dropped them." Evan lowered his eyes. "I try my best, Princess." She tilted her head. "You speak simply. It is refreshing." Before Evan could respond, the hall lights dimmed and slow earth music began to play. A human cultural segment was scheduled, a dance demonstration. But the 2 dancers who were supposed to perform were stuck in traffic, and no replacements had been arranged. The music played awkwardly. People whispered in confusion. The organizers panicked. Astra listened to the music with curiosity. "What kind of sound is this?" she asked Evan. "It's a slow dance song," he explained hesitantly. "For couples. Humans dance to it when they want to connect." "Connect?" Astra repeated, eyes bright. "Show me." Evan nearly dropped the empty tray. "Show you? A dance? I'm not a dancer, Princess." "I don't mind," she said simply. "I want to learn." The guard stepped forward immediately. "Princess!" "This is not appropriate." She raised her hand, silencing them with royal authority. Then she looked at Evan again. "Teach me." Evan felt the whole hall watching. He wasn't supposed to be part of anything important. He wasn't supposed to speak to a princess more than necessary. But she was waiting, her eyes steady, her expression hopeful. So he slowly set down his tray, took a breath, and held out his hand. Astra placed her hand in his without hesitation. The hall grew silent as a human waiter and alien princess stepped into the center of the floor. The music flowed softly around them. Evan guided her gently, showing her small steps, letting her follow his movements. At first she moved stiffly, confused by the rhythm, but soon she relaxed. Her feet followed as naturally. Her eyes softened. For the first time all night, she looked truly alive. People stared in shock, whispers rising like a storm. A princess dancing with a human waiter. But Astra didn't seem to care. And far above the hall, unseen behind a shimmering balcony screen, someone powerful watched the moment unfold. The Empress. The music flowed softly through the hall, and Evan tried to keep his hand steady as he guided Princess Astra across the floor. He had danced before, but never like this. Never with hundreds of people watching, and certainly never with an alien princess whose touch felt warm and strangely electric. Astra moved with careful curiosity. Her steps were small at first, uncertain, but she watched his feet and copied him. She was clearly used to learning things quickly. After only a few moments, her steps grew smoother, lighter, as if she were floating. The crowd did not speak. They only watched. Evan felt every pair of eyes on him, but Astra looked at no one else. She looked only at him, as if she found something fascinating and did not want to let it go. Is this really how humans show connection? Astra asked quietly while they turned in a slow circle. Yes, Evan said. This dance is simple. Humans use it to feel close. It is warm, she whispered. Warm in a way I have never felt. Her voice was soft, honest, almost fragile. A row of the Empress's guards shifted uneasily. Their hands remained close to their devices. They did not like this. A human waiter touching royal blood was already something their rule books did not cover. But the princess did not care. Astra lifted her eyes and studied Evan's face. Her gaze was calm but searching, as if she was trying to understand something hidden in him. He felt nervous under her gaze, but also strangely brave. You are afraid, she said gently. A little, he admitted. Because of me? Because of all of this? Astra gave a small smile. It was not the shy smile from before. It was a smile that made her look more alive than a princess should be. Do not fear, Evan. I asked you to dance. You did not force me. Evan nodded, trying to breathe normally. He didn't want to step on her feet or pull her too close. He wanted to respect her space. But Astra did something unexpected. She moved slightly closer, closing the distance by her own choice. I can feel your heartbeat, she said softly. Humans are loud on the inside. He almost laughed, but managed to hold it in. Sorry, do not apologize. It is nice. The music swelled and the lights dimmed, turning the dance floor into a glowing circle. The world around them felt smaller, quieter. Evan forgot the crowd for a moment. Astra seemed to forget everything. Her guards, her title, her duties. She just moved, following the rhythm, following him. But high above the hall, behind a layer of shimmering glass, the Empress watched every second. Her expression did not change, but her eyes sharpened. The Empress had seen many things in her long rule. She had seen wars, peace treaties, and rebellions. But she had never seen her daughter smile at a human. The Empress's advisor whispered beside her, Your Majesty, this is unusual. Unusual, the Empress repeated, her voice calm but heavy. Yes, very unusual. Back on the floor, the music slowed even more. Astra stepped slightly to the side, then stopped. Wait, she said, listening carefully. The music changed. Yes, Evan said. This part is slower. It feels different, softer, like a whisper. She tilted her head. Do humans whisper with music? In a way, he said. This part is emotional. Astra blinked, confused. Emotional? You dance like you mean it. You feel the music here. Evan lightly tapped his chest. Astra looked down at her own chest, thoughtful. Feel it. He nodded. She closed her eyes for a moment, then she breathed in. When she opened them, something changed in her face. Her expression softened, melted even. She placed her hand gently on Evan's shoulder, mirroring how he held her hand. "Show me," she said again, but this time her voice held a quiet hunger, not for food but for experience. Evan guided her in the slowest steps of the dance. She followed perfectly, as if she had danced this all her life. The people around them whispered louder now. Some were impressed, some were shocked, some were angry, but no one interrupted. Astra's hair shimmered like silver threads. Each turn made it glow brighter. Evan could feel every movement, every breath, as if the room held only two people. "You dance well," Astra whispered. "I'm just trying not to mess up," Evan said honestly. "You are not messing up," she replied. "You are steady." He felt his face heat, but he kept dancing. When the music finally faded, the hall was silent. Astra lowered her hand slowly, as if she did not want the moment to end. Her eyes stayed on Evan for a long second too long. Then everything happened at once. Her guards rushed forward. Human officials stepped in nervously. The music stopped completely. The hall's lights brightened. Astra's lead guard bowed deeply. "Princess, this is not allowed." "The Empress." Astra lifted her hand again, stopping him. But this time, she looked uneasy for the first time. Her eyes flicked upward to the balcony. Evan followed her gaze. Behind the shimmering glass, the figure of the Empress stood still, watching, judging, silent. Astra swallowed. The light in her eyes dimmed just a bit, not in fear, but in realization. The dance was over, but something powerful had begun. The hall fell silent as soon as the Empress appeared on the balcony. Her presence was like a weight dropping onto the room. Even those who had not seen her enter instantly felt the shift in the air. She stood tall, wrapped in silver and deep blue, with a crown that glowed like a tiny star. Her eyes, sharp and calm, were fixed on one thing only, her daughter Astra, standing far too close to a human waiter. Astra's hands lowered slowly, but Evan could see tension in her shoulders. She had danced with joy a moment ago, but now she stood very still, as if afraid to breathe. Evan felt his throat tighten. He had not meant to cause trouble. He only wanted to help. He only wanted to be polite. But now he stood in the center of the royal hall, with all eyes turning between him and the Empress. The Empress did not rush. She descended the balcony stairs with graceful, measured steps. The crowd parted like water before her. No one dared speak. Every footstep echoed. Evan had never seen someone so calm, yet so powerful. Her expression did not show anger, but something far more dangerous. Deep thought. A royal guard whispered to Astra, "Princess, step back." Astra didn't move. "No," she said softly. Evan's heart thumped harder. She refused to step away. She refused to pretend the dance was a mistake. The Empress stopped a few feet from them. She looked at Evan first, studying him with a quiet intensity. He stood straight, even though his hands wanted to shake. He felt like she could see every detail of him, every fear, every intention, every breath. "You," she said in a clear voice, "are the human who danced with my daughter." Her words were not a question. They were a fact she already knew. "Yes, Your Majesty," Evan said quietly. "She asked me to." A few people gasped softly at his boldness. But the Empress did not react, at least not with her face. Her eyes moved to Astra. "Astra," she said, her voice much softer now, explain. Astra took a breath. "I asked him to dance. I wanted to learn." "And you chose a human waiter?" the Empress asked. The question was simple, but everyone felt the weight behind it. Astra lifted her chin. "He was kind. He did not fear me. He did not pretend." Something flickered across the Empress's face. Something hard to read. Evan felt the need to speak. "Your Majesty, I meant no disrespect. I only wanted to help her understand the dance. I didn't want to cause trouble." The Empress turned her gaze back to him. "You did not cause trouble," she said, surprising everyone. "You revealed truth." Evan blinked. He didn't know what that meant, but Astra seemed to understand. Her eyes widened slightly. The Empress slowly walked around Evan, looking at him from every angle as if examining something rare. "You are steady," she said. "Your steps were controlled. Your hands were careful. You kept proper distance unless the princess closed it." She paused. "You did not take advantage." Evan swallowed. "I would never." "I know," the Empress said. She moved closer, and Evan felt a strange pressure in the air, like a quiet test he did not know he was taking. When she spoke again, her voice had a tone that made the guard stand straighter. "Do you know what you did, human?" Evan shook his head honestly. "You made Astra smile." The hall buzzed. That simple sentence made the atmosphere crack open. Some whispered. Some looked shocked. Some bowed their heads respectfully. Astra looked down for a moment, embarrassed but also touched. The Empress turned to her daughter. "You have not smiled like that in years." Astra's voice trembled slightly. "I forgot how." The Empress touched her arm gently. It was a rare gesture, one most people had never seen. "I did not forget," she said softly. For a moment, they looked like just a mother and daughter. Not rulers, not royalty, just family. Then the Emperor's advisor stepped forward nervously. "Your Majesty, should we remove the human?" "The rules." The Empress raised a single finger, and the advisor fell silent immediately. She looked at Evan again. "Human, what is your name?" "Evan, your Majesty." "Evan," she repeated, her voice calm but strong. "You dance with honesty. You did not flatter. You did not bow in fear. You did not try to impress. You acted with simple heart." Her eyes narrowed. Most at this banquet cannot do the same. A few nobles lowered their eyes in shame. Astra stepped a little closer, standing beside Evan. "Mother, I enjoyed dancing with him." "I can see that," the Empress said. Evan felt like he was witnessing something important, something bigger than a simple dance. The Empress looked at the crowd. "This moment will not be erased. It will not be hidden. Let the galaxy know a human, an ordinary human, reminded my daughter how to feel joy." The crowd gasped again. Evan felt dizzy. Astra looked relieved. The guards looked confused. Then the Empress did something no one expected. She turned back to Evan and nodded. A respectful nod. A royal nod. A nod. That meant he was no longer just some waiter. "You have my attention, Evan of Earth," she said. And that is not something given lightly. Evan felt the truth of that statement, like a weight in his chest. The Empress had seen everything, and nothing would ever be the same again. The royal hall slowly filled with quiet whispers as the Empress motioned for the music to stop. The musicians froze, the nobles stood still, and even the guards held their breath. Only one person looked more confused than everyone else. Evan, the simple human waiter who had danced with the princess by accident. The Empress walked forward, her long silver cloak gliding behind her like soft light. Her face held no anger, only deep thought. She studied Evan the same way someone studies a strange, new star in the sky, one that shouldn't exist, but does. Evan stood tall even though his heart was beating too fast. He had faced angry customers in restaurants before, but this was very different. This was a ruler of a galaxy. One wrong word could turn into a disaster. But Astra, the princess, stepped closer to him instead of stepping away. She stood at his side without fear. "Mother," Astra said softly, "he did nothing wrong." The Empress looked at her daughter for a long moment before turning back to Evan. "I know," she said calmly. "That is what makes this so important." Evan did not understand what she meant, but he stayed quiet. The Empress paced slowly around him, her eyes sharp. "You are human, a simple one. No royal blood, no advanced training, not a soldier, not a scholar. Yet you stood beside a princess without trembling." Evan felt heat rise in his cheeks. I was just helping her, Your Majesty." "Yes," the Empress replied. "Helping, not flattering, not pretending." She stopped in front of him again. "Do you know how rare that is in my courts?" Evan shook his head. "It is very rare," she said. "Most people, when they see royalty, freeze, or bow too much, or try too hard. But you stayed yourself." Astra nodded. "That is why I like dancing with him." A few nobles shifted uncomfortably. The Empress ignored them. She studied Evan again. Do you understand who you dance with? Your daughter, he said carefully. Not just my daughter. She is my heir, the future ruler of an empire of thousands of worlds. Evan swallowed. I didn't know that. I was just doing my job. And that, the Empress said, is where your value begins. The hall murmured again. Some nobles looked shocked. Others looked annoyed. Others looked confused. The Empress lifted one hand for silence. Humans, she said, are young compared to the rest of us. Your people are still learning, still growing, still stumbling. But you have something many advanced species lost long ago. She looked directly at Evan. You have heart. Evan blinked. Heart. Yes, she said. You feel strongly. You act honestly. You do things not for advantage, but because they feel right. Astra smiled softly. That is why he danced with me. Evan nodded. Anyone would have. No, the Empress said. Not anyone. She turned to the nobles around her. Many of you would have refused. Others would have tried to use the moment for power. But he, she pointed toward Evan, treated the princess the same way he would treat anyone, with simple kindness. Evan didn't know what to say. He wasn't used to being praised by an empress. A royal advisor stepped forward nervously. Your Majesty, he is still just a human waiter. Surely we cannot. The Empress silenced him with one glance. There is no just in kindness, she said. There is no small insincerity. There is no less in honesty. Evan felt something warm in his chest. Astra looked at him with bright eyes full of gratitude. The Empress continued. I have seen warlords with armies show less courage than this human showed when he accepted a hand from a princess. Evan's breath caught. He hadn't thought of it as courage. The Empress did. She stepped closer to him, close enough for her voice to soften. Evan of Earth, she said gently, you have shown value not through status or skill, but through spirit, and that is something worth protecting. Evan stared, stunned. Protecting? Yes, she said, because people like you are rare. The hall became silent again. No one dared interrupt. Astra slowly took Evan's hand, her fingers light but sure. Mother, she said quietly, I want him to stay for the rest of the banquet. The request shocked the room. A princess had asked for a human waiter to remain at her side. The Empress looked at their hands but did not scold her. Instead, she nodded once. He may stay. Astra's face lit up. Evan felt his heart jump, but the Empress wasn't finished. She turned to Hall, her voice strong. From this moment on, no one will treat Evan as a servant. He is a guest of the royal house. Gasps filled the room. Evan nearly stumbled. Your Majesty, I don't know what to say. Say nothing, the Empress replied. Just continue being what you already are. Astra squeezed his hand gently. Evan didn't know what future waited for him after this night. But one thing was clear. A simple human had shown a value that an entire empire had forgotten, and the Empress would never forget it again. The banquet ended hours later, but the Empress did not return to her ship. Instead, she stayed on the balcony overlooking Earth's night sky. Stars shimmered above her, and city lights sparkled far below. She stood with her hands folded behind her back, thinking deeply. Behind her, Evan waited nervously. He didn't know why she had asked him to come outside. Astra stood beside him, calm but curious. The wind was cool, and the world felt strangely quiet. Finally, the Empress spoke. Evan, she said, still looking at the sky, your world is small compared to mine. But tonight, you showed something that many great leaders lack. Evan shifted awkwardly. I really didn't do anything special. Astra let out a small laugh. You danced with a princess in front of the whole empire. That wasn't special, Evan said. It was just human. The Empress turned to him, her silver eyes thoughtful. Exactly. That is what makes this important. She looked back at the stars. For many years, my empire believed humans were simple, emotional, unpredictable, too young to matter in galactic politics. She paused. But tonight, you changed something in me. And when something changes in an empress, it changes everywhere. Evan swallowed hard. What kind of change? The Empress stepped closer to him. You reminded me that strength is not only found in armies or in powerful minds. Sometimes it is found in simple acts. She held his gaze. Kindness, courage, honesty. These values shape civilizations more than weapons do. Evan didn't know how to respond. He felt small, but not in a bad way. More like a small spark that somehow lit a huge fire. The Empress turned to Astra. My daughter chose well when she reached for your hand. It shows she understands the heart better than many rulers. Astra looked down shyly but smiled. The Empress sighed softly. My rule has been long and full of heavy decisions, but this may be the first one that feels hopeful. Evan frowned. What decision? The Empress paused for a long time. Then she lifted her chin, and her voice became stronger than the wind. I will open the gates of my empire to Earth. Astra gasped. Evan's eyes widened. That means... Evan started. It means, the Empress said, that humanity will no longer be a small, ignored world. Your people will be allowed to trade, to travel, to learn, and to stand as equals among the stars. Evan was speechless. This was more than a gift. It was a future. Astra touched her mother's arm gently. Why now? The Empress whispered. Because tonight I saw the true potential of humans. She looked at Evan. I saw it in him. Evan felt his heart pound. But I'm just one person. And yet, the Empress said softly, you change the way an entire empire sees your species. Evan shook his head. I didn't mean to. That, she replied, is the beauty of it. A group of royal advisors approached cautiously from the hall doors. One bowed. Your Majesty, the fleet is ready. They await your final command. The Empress lifted a hand. Tell him to stand down. There will be no departure tonight. I will address the Empire first. The advisor hesitated, shocked. You mean a broadcast? Yes, she said. A message to all worlds. He bowed and left quickly, not daring to question her again. Astra leaned close to Evan. You realize what this means, right? Evan shook his head slowly. Not really. It means my mother is about to tell billions of people that humans matter. Evan's breath caught. Because of a dance? Astra smiled. Because of you. The Empress walked toward the balcony edge once more, gazing down at Earth. Evan, she said softly, I will need your help. My help, he repeated. What can I possibly do? Stand beside me, she said. When the Empire sees you, an ordinary human, they will understand that value does not come from power. It comes from character. Evan looked at Astra. She gave him a small nod of encouragement. He stepped forward. The Empress placed a hand on his shoulder, surprisingly gentle. Tonight, we begin something new, she said. A bridge between worlds. A future shaped not by fear, but by understanding. Evan felt something shift inside him, something bright and steady. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't a hero. He wasn't royalty. He was just a human waiter. But somehow, that was exactly what the galaxy needed. The Empress spoke one last time, her voice quiet but full of power. You showed me the meaning of humanity. Now I will show the universe. And as she turned toward the light of her ship, ready to make her greatest announcement, Evan realized the truth. A single act of kindness had changed not just a life, not just a family, but the destiny of entire worlds.